number 4H. It is before the body.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking to the amendment.
The delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, I was hoping that as the governor began to experience that reality that governing is very different than campaigning, when he moved from trying to get the support of 50% plus one to being responsible for the health and welfare of all Virginians, I was hoping that his campaign talking point about repealing the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative would fall by the wayside, but no such luck. Mr. Speaker, the benefits of RGGI to Virginians are very, very clear. This amendment is all about the repeal of RGGI, and I hope the members will reject this amendment. No one seriously questions climate change anymore. Some people don't like to use those words, but there's just no question that it's happening, and it's going to cost Virginia dearly in terms of construction and infrastructure and public health over the next coming decades. RGGI is a proven solution to reduce the root cause of climate change. That's greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide. The claim that RGGI isn't doing anything, it's just not right, Mr. Speaker. We know that Virginia's participation in RGGI is helping Virginians already, right now, as we speak. It's working to drive down emissions and improve public health. And how do we know that? Well, Virginia's only a year into its participation in RGGI, but thankfully, we're not the first state in RGGI. There are several other states, and the regional effort has been around since 2008. So we have lots of data to look at. RGGI states have seen their emissions drop 90% faster than the rest of the country, and its health benefits are already manifest. In Virginia, thanks to the Clean Energy and Community Flood Preparedness Act, the proceeds from the program are already helping countless Virginians. Since Virginia joined RGGI, 4 quarterly auctions have occurred, generating $227 million. That's over $100 million for flood preparedness and nearly $120 million for energy efficiency around the Commonwealth. Now, on efficiency, thousands of low-wealth Virginia households are already getting their homes weatherized. This is money, by the way, that was never available before and won't be available going forward if we repeal RGGI. Virginia's participation in RGGI is finally getting these families the relief they need while reducing their climate impact. And by the way, the weatherization is even creating jobs for professionals and trade contractors who do that sort of thing. So thousands of high-efficiency, affordable housing units are being constructed, and these projects are already happening all across the Commonwealth, in all of our constituents' districts. Like Delegate Lopez, I've got a list. I won't read all of it, but it's South Boston, Enrico, Fairfax, Harrisonburg, Waynesboro, Stanton, Radford, Wytheville, Abingdon, Grayson County, South Boston, Charlottesville. These are real benefits for our constituents, Mr. Speaker. So let's talk about flooding for a second. We all know it's happening, and for the first time ever in Virginia, localities have access to dedicated state funding to perform critical flooding resiliency planning and projects. We face huge flooding problems all across the Commonwealth, and before RGGI, it was virtually impossible for localities to fund these projects. They would never be able to get the federal money that sometimes is out there. But RGGI fixes that, Mr. Speaker. So once again, these grants are going out all across the Commonwealth, not just the coastal areas, which we all know are so desperately in need of this money, Hampton, Newport News, and Norfolk, but inland communities like Buchanan and Roanoke, Christiansburg, Southside, Petersburg, and Southwest Virginia. Trying to repeal this proven solution, Mr. Speaker, to take away this desperately needed funding is just irresponsible. It's the wrong direction for us to go in, Mr. Speaker. Now, there's some criticism out there about costs being passed on to consumers. Sure, there's a cost. RGGI works by requiring utilities to take into account the cost of polluting our air with greenhouse gases. Utilities have the flexibility to figure out how the best way to reduce those emissions over time, but they have to figure it out. This is a big change. For decades, utilities never had to factor in these costs before, and now they do. But is repealing RGGI the solution to utility costs, Mr. Speaker? Surely not. That just helps the utilities go back to the norm when they could pollute our air and not even think about it. The solution is to make sure those utilities do a better job reducing emissions faster. Reduce emissions, and you reduce costs. That's how RGGI works, Mr. Speaker. So the solution is to make sure the SEC scrutinizes the utilities and make sure they're minimizing RGGI costs for customers. That's how we continue to tackle climate change, and that's how we continue to help all of our constituents, Virginians across the Commonwealth. I urge the body to reject this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The delegate from Scott, Delegate Kilgore.
Mr. Speaker.